It was my question about should Christian incels get mail order wives.
Oh,
That
interesting.
that was my question. I mean, it's like a kind of a jokey thing, but then it's kind of like, well, I don't know if you actually think about it seriously for a minute. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea. Like, because I mean, those ladies are in like really desperate positions. I mean, like some of them are probably terrible gold diggers, but like, I don't know if they're like, yes, I will sign up to like marry the first guy from America who will let me get out of this country, then like I don't know, they may if some then you know because like most of the people that sign up for those things are probably really creepy. But my thought was, you know, we have all these people who are like probably decent people, but because of all the weird like connection problems that our society has, like and the status hierarchies, like they don't have a shot, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe they should just get some woman from another country who and treat them really well, and like then that will make them a better person. Like because I don't know how you, I'm sure you probably agree about this to some extent, but like um you know, because marriage is like it's such a growing experience. It's like the most powerful growing experience. Like um and I think that before you're married, you and our society definitely puts so much emphasis on like the picking. Like you have to pick the right person, but the the being too picky, and men and women both do it, keeps you from getting married, and then it keeps you from that transformative experience where it's like nobody marries the person that they think that they want to, but that you become a good person like by being married. And I
Hmm.
think that, you know, because everybody's like looking for the total package, they never like pull the trigger where,
Yeah.
you know, because I mean, you know, not to say like, I mean, like, I, you know, I sort of think like any two people could make it work if they were committed enough. That's easy for me to say. Like, God led me to my wife in like a very, very specific way. It was literally like, this is the one for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, I asked him for a sign and he gave me a sign. And then it's like, we knew we were getting married on our second date, you know? So like, but even still, even with that like supernatural kind of like God brought us together, it's a lot of work to make our marriage work, you know? Like, but that makes me so much of a better person.
Yeah. Well, so my grandma Carolyn and my grandpa David, um, they met when they went to different schools, and they met. He met her at like a, I don't know, like a, she worked at a drive-in or something, and he met her, and they dated, and they were married within 6 months, and they stayed married forever the whole time. And I remember when I was younger, she had mentioned that, we didn't really marry out of love necessarily, like, which was interesting to hear her say that. But we married because, for, I don't know, because it was, I don't know, it was right or something. But they weren't
Yeah.
really at all. They, like, at all. Um, so that's kind of interesting. But then, and I hear a lot of this now. Like, if you listen to some of the red pill spaces and stuff like this, there's dudes out there that, like, they really believe like there is no incentive whatsoever to get married. And it's like it, that's relatable to a degree, because I remember thinking for most of my life that I was never going to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was just I didn't see the point of it. Like, it's the same arguments that you always hear, right? It's like, it's the states involved, and what's the point, and all this stuff, and it wasn't until I heard Peterson talking about uh, your partner should be your contender. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard that clip before. It's in the biblical lecture, and that I was sitting. I was dating my wife at the time. We were dating, and it was pretty early on, and that convinced me. What he said made such perfect sense to me that I knew that I wanted to marry her. And we talked about it pretty early on. We talked about getting married. It wasn't our second date, but it was probably, I don't know, 6 months in. We already had been discussing it, and we got engaged a year after we were dating, and we got married 2 years after we were dating, and we just now celebrated our second anniversary on Monday.
Congratulations.
And it is the most incredible and strange thing, and also it is difficult. I mean, like, you find ways. I've noticed ways that how do I put this? I've noticed how selfish I really am.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like, son of a bitch. Like, I remember I wanted to watch Ozark. This is like early on. And she's like, I don't watch Ozark. You can watch it if you want. Watch it by yourself. And I was upset about that. And, I went to my sponsor. I'm like, I'm so, like, I'm changing so much, and I'm trying to be the best man I can, and she won't watch Ozark with me, and it sucks. He's like, you're just being selfish, dude. It's like, and it's like, yeah, I'm a little kid, dude. But I mean, it's just because I'm petty like that, and so. But we've grown past a lot of that stuff. But I mean, it's still incredibly difficult, But it's wonderful, though. It's I don't know. It's hard. It's impossible really to describe.
Well, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, it is obviously, it's like a super complicated thing, but I think just the idea that, like, you have the commitment first, and then and that commitment is real, and you're really committed to the commitment, and then you figure out all the weird stuff that might happen.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, it makes it like, because without that, like, and honestly, like, and I've heard, I'm lucky enough to not experience this personally, but, like, people that, like, are in like cohabiting, but they're not married, there's never that feeling, like, at any point, of, like, someone always has the upper hand, and it is the person who cares less,
right.
And the person who cares more is always having to make sure, like, am I doing what I can to please the other person? And if I'm not, they could just leave at any time. And like, it's just, you need, like, that insecurity is like terrible. And it's like, even if everything went perfect, then it's like, oh, great. Like, how long can your relationship, like, be perfect? At some point, you're going to have a fight, or something serious is going to happen. Like, you can't have, like, smooth sailing for forever. So without that, like, that structure to know, like I think the amazing thing about being married and going through this experience is, like, I really try not to screw up. and I try to not be a jerk, but I have been a jerk and I have screwed up, and my wife forgives me, and then it's better. And like that whole thing is better than me not ever screwing up, because like that's the basis for like intimacy, it's like vulnerability and being honest. And it's like, yeah, it's like crazy. Like I can't even remember, like, I don't know, we fought, it's like the stuff you fight about like early on is like really stupid, and there is a lot of that stuff, and like stuff like TV shows for some reason turns into a very serious argument, or like we would just always have these fights about like doing the dishes and stuff or whatever, or like, and it's like, this is so stupid, like, because, and it's like I don't even care, like I forgot to do the dishes. If you asked me, I would do it, but instead you want to be annoyed that I didn't do it without talking to you, like, so like that was like, we probably had that fight like 100 times or something. I don't know. Like it's so stupid.
Yeah, I said, no, this is like maybe a month ago. I said, there's just times where I know you shouldn't have to tell me to do things. I know this. I understand this. I should be more adult and better put together. But the fact is, I'm just bad at it. And I'm not going to most of the time. So, like, just, it would be really helpful if you just said, hey, because I'm not paying attention either sometimes, right? But it would be really helpful if you said, hey, can you do this or help me with that? And last night, a couple nights ago, she brought up something that she's like, you said you wanted me to tell you. I'm like, thank you. Like at first, and when she's telling me, I'm like, oh, but but it is. I mean, it's.
Yes, Gavin, I have said this many times to my wife that I am not a mind reader.
Well, it can just be, it's the most amazing thing, but I love the security of knowing that that we're not going anywhere, and really the miracle of being a home owner and all this stuff is like, it's amazing, and to be a real partner with somebody, and like you're saying, like, I don't want to be a jerk, but sometimes I am. It's like, me too. Like, and sometimes I don't know how not to be, it's like, this is where I start to recognize, again, how just selfish I really am,
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing though. So you, and like
right now, I'd be in there probably.
Yeah. Well, it's like Peterson's clean your room thing, and like it was funny because like I never that talk that Paul, the one you did, that took that good clip from there with that guy Vosh or whatever. I'd never heard that one before, but somewhere in there he talked about how like the self-help stuff, it only lasts for like a little while,
Right.
And like I think that's the thing, it's like single people by themselves can, you get a little motivated about cleaning your room, you do a little better for a while, but it's like then it goes away. But like being married, it's like a crucible, I mean, it's amazing, but it is also like there's no like space where you can like retreat and not like you can't, if you want it to be successful at all, you can't keep being the same person you were and be, a better husband or a better wife. You have to interact with that other person and change, and like that. That's like such a powerful transformative thing. So it's like, because I've for a long time, like young men have been like, that's where like my heart is at, and where I want to, that's where I want to help. And like God's given me 2 daughters and 1 more on the way. So like this is going to continue to be an important the health of young men in society will be an important topic for the rest of my life, for that reason alone. But
Yeah.
it's already something that God's made important to me. But like it's just like, yeah, just do the commitment first. Just pick somebody, not totally crazy. But there's limits to all this stuff. Use some wisdom, but like and honestly, it's even funny because you see like people who had like shotgun marriages, which doesn't really happen that much anymore. But like people that got like pregnant in like high school or college and they got married, like they struggle a lot. But then by the time they're like 30, their life is like way more put together than most 30-year-olds now that haven't done that stuff. Like it does force you to like become a better person, and like those are the kind of people society needs. So I think that's the thing, is that the there's so much pressure on like picking the right person that too few people are getting to the real important thing, which is being in this transformative relationship that makes you grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then less emphasis, and two, like less value on sex, but more of a I don't know, at least in my time, it seemed like there was, and I don't think it was just because I was a man and stuff. Like I think there was a lot of women out there where like there just wasn't, we weren't, people weren't dating. We weren't dating. I didn't know what dating was um, until I actually courted my wife. And, because like the sex thing was like, I don't know, there was little value on it, but like a lot of inflation on it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just go get it, and like that's the goal, and that's kind of like, and so when that would happen, there wasn't any time to actually get to know somebody.
Yeah.
And so it's like once the sex is gone, and you realize I'm not really interested in this person, and then you move along, and then that becomes a pattern that you live out, and it's empty. And my wife Ann and I, we decided right away when at the very before we ever really went on dates, we said we're not doing any of that stuff. We're not holding hands. We're not kissing. We're not nothing. We're gonna see if there's something here, and that was our focus. Can we actually be a couple? Can we actually? Do we even like each other?
This is the problem we're trying to solve here. Just so I don't know, but don't be too picky. Commit first, and then figure it out later. I don't know. That's not really great advice. I don't know. Pray, like, because
the guys I work with, the guys I sponsor, because they're always asking, well, how did you do it? And I'm like, are you willing to completely make the sacrifice of abstaining from sex with somebody for like at least a couple months, a month, maybe 2, at least? Well, no, like, well, I don't know what to tell you then, man, because like, because I made that mistake so many times before, and it was empty, and then I made a decision because it hurt too much to be doing that anymore. I made a decision that whoever I'm going to date from here on out, I'm actually going to date them. I'm going to see if I like this person, and I'm not going to sleep with them if I don't like them. And it worked out great because it was like no feelings were hurt, because I did date somebody before my wife, and no feelings were hurt, and it was like it was fine.
Yeah.
And then when my wife and I started dating, it was like like I knew very quickly if I could not only I knew very quickly that I really liked her as a person, and that there was something very valuable there, and between us, and she was like this exciting mystery to me, and I wanted to get to know her like forever. You know what I'm saying? And then we were able to move into some other areas and stuff. But I don't know if I'm making any sense to you guys, but um, I don't know. That's the best advice I would give is, you know,
Yeah, I know it is super, and I even know like people like who are in, even people when they're living together and stuff like that, when they, if they become Christian or whatever, and then they decide they want to get married and do things like the right way, that even just intentionally like taking a break and living separately for a little while and waiting, even though they have had this prior relation, history, that has like worked for people as like a reset, and it kind of like it, all the weird hangups and the weird like patterns and things that they get into as a, even though it's the same couple, like it gives them like a fresh start. So like, and I think that's something encouraging because I grew up and um my hearing it in church that you should wait until you're married, and from my parents and all this stuff. But like I know a lot of churches and pastors and stuff just think like that it's so unrealistic to expect that somebody would do that they don't even bother saying it anymore. But like you should say that. But and I think yeah, yeah, it, it does help, like, because it's such a confusing thing getting sexually entangled with someone, because then you were really not in a good place to judge their the quality of their character, or even if you have similar interests or if you have similar like goals in life and stuff like that, because it's just going to mess up all your ability to judge all those things.
yep.
My advice to Aaron, um, I would say don't necessarily. I don't know. The change to my mind was thinking like not about what how great it would be for me to find a woman to be married, like, because that would be great for me. It would make me better. It would complete my life. But more so, I mean, and this is like this in my personal experience. I got married to somebody that I was friends with for a long time, and I didn't really consider her that way until some kind of series of events. But it was more like some looking and being like, oh, this is a person that I want to serve her and like help her in her life, and I want to be there for her, and not about like what it does for me. So I mean, I would say, if you pray for that and ask God to show you like who, because you can be the answer to somebody else's prayers, and that's the person that you should be like looking for, and not just about like what you want. And yeah,
I can tell you what I would do. If anybody wants some advice, I'm going to give you the advice that I was given. Okay. First, I'm going to read something real quick, and then I'll just do something. So this is on page 69. It literally is on page 69 of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. Now about sex. Many of us needed to overhaul in there, but above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is the lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles in the race are traceable to sex causes. They think that we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare. and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. We all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? So here's the advice. We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. So then what you'll do is you'll make an inventory. And this is what I would suggest that anybody would do. It's very simple. So here's how you make the inventory. So you write down, and not just people that you've had sex with, but maybe any kind of relationship, or even relationship with the opposite sex. It could even be like a coworkers or whatever it is. And so the inventory goes like this. We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. So then you go through like whatever, Jane, and then you write down all the answers to that question, and to all those questions there, every one of those questions, and then move on to the next, whoever, right? And then you keep doing that, and what happens is you start to see, if you're really honest with yourself about this, and invite God into this process, ask God to help you see what it is that you really need to see in this, and be honest, you'll start to see yourself in a real light here. And it has this question here, what should we have done instead? Later it says here, in this way we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and help us to live up to them. So that's a prayer. We ask God to mold our ideals and live up to them. Remember always that our sex powers are God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring still about more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. And in meditation, we ask God what we should do in each specific matter. The right answers will come if we want it. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. So again, like, you do this inventory, and it asks us to ask God to shape our sex ideal. And a lot of what I found is the sex ideal that is that is there lies in the opposite of, or in the answer to the question, what should we have done instead? Do you understand what I'm saying? So like, Jane, what should I have done instead? And really it's in all these. Where was I selfish? Well, I didn't pay attention to her. I didn't or I'm trying to hurry up because I want to get back inside here, but I know it sounds complicated, but it's really not. Like, how could you know, if you want to know how to go somewhere, the best way, I think, in some ways, is to look at your own past.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, coupled with abstinence, is really, and not just to be pure or anything like that, is as you said, to not pollute my judgment on trying to live out my sex ideal with my potential partner or mate. And that's actual dating. Like, meeting up and hooking up isn't dating. And that's what I always thought it was. It's like, no. And the other thing is what I find is often men are completely, it's completely foreign to most men that they should set up boundaries and not rely on women to set up the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, if I'm relying on you to set up the boundaries, I'm kind of screwed, right? But if I walk into a situation and I have boundaries set up, like, nope, I'm not doing this, or this, and I have a goal in mind, where can I bring God into this process um and and live up to these boundaries, that you're probably gonna have a lot better success in actually finding a partner that you actually will come to love. Like, that's my experience with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you know it's funny too, because like that's not even like my wife and I. Neither of us had sex before we got married, but we still had a lot of like sexual baggage that we had to deal with because of stuff like because she had been like told, you know, like sex is dirty, don't do it, you know. And I had watched a lot of pornography, and that was like, you know, it's like, how do you, you know, I didn't want that to be like that was my way of knowing like what is good or not. And you know, and it's weird, like it's weird that you can have like this is probably because I'm sure you've experienced too, like when you're married you actually have conversations about sex like that you I cannot imagine most people have when they're just in a relationship where they're having casual sex or you know or when they you know where you don't have that level of commitment first because you are always having to like present some you can't admit like what you don't know or how you're messed up or whatever, but you know over time you're able to like work that stuff out. But
Yeah.
yeah, but then that's the thing, like it's like yeah, even if you like is that you know that because that whole thing, you know, even the people who had known and believed like you should wait until you're married, it doesn't mean by any means that you are going that it's this is and that's a lie that I think a lot of churches kind of put forward, that like if you wait until you're married then it's just going to be awesome and amazing and it's going to be so great. And like no, it's tough and you kind of have to figure stuff out. And it's way better like now that I've been married for a long time. It's like yeah, it's worth it. It's totally worth it. It's totally worth it to wait, and it's totally worth it to be patient even after you're married. And like yeah, it's just it's a transformative experience. Marriage is so
Yeah, but even those boundaries that I'm talking about, like that, I really think men should really consider developing their own boundaries between them and women. It's
yeah
not even just in the sex realm, and it's in like all of the realms, like yeah, you know, it's kind of like stick up for yourself or something like this. Like if you know you, like you know, why not have like a I mean, what boundaries are like a preemptive plan for responsibility or something like
yeah
that, you know. And there's something very it's like that idea of you know, like when you have complete freedom to do whatever you want, it's nuts.
yeah
But if you have this constraint, there's so much more freedom in this constraint if you understand it. And the only way you'll understand that is if you practice it. So
yeah yeah
I really appreciate you talking with me, man.
yeah
And
thank you for coming on.
and I've probably been out here for far too long. So
All right, well, enjoy your evening and enjoy your weekend.
all right. Thanks,
Yep.
Michael. Thanks, Jacob, and thanks everybody out there. Bye bye.